Here is a story that slithers from the shadows of an ancient forest, where the trees guard secrets and the cabins aren't always sanctuaries. It's a tale about a man who thought he could walk through the darkness without paying a price. Pride has always been fate's favorite appetizer. Sit down, my curious friend, and listen, for this is not a bedtime story to sleep soundly. Long ago, in a forest so thick that sunlight barely scratched its depths, a hunter wandered with his shotgun slung over his shoulder. He wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, no sir. He had that special kind of clumsiness that makes a man trip over his own shadow. The pines stood like silent sentinels, their bare branches snapping in the icy wind. Whispering warnings he ignored, like a fool swatting at flies. The cold bit at his fingers and clouded his breath, but he pressed on, guided by an instinct as reliable as a broken compass. The forest, clever as it is, swallowed him bit by bit. The undergrowth clawed at his legs. The trunks closed in like a living trap. When twilight painted the sky a dying red, fear crept up his spine. He knew night in such a place was a merciless host. But then, oh, what luck! Just as his hopes shriveled, a solitary cabin emerged. Small, quiet, wrapped in a shroud of dead leaves that crunched under his boots like muffled laughter. It wasn't a palace, but it beat freezing to death. Barely. Inside, the cabin wore its years like a tattered coat. Wooden walls sagged under time's weight, and in one corner sat a rustic fireplace, its cold ashes mocking the promise of warmth. The hunter, relieved, dropped his pack and coat, ready to outlast the night. He lit a candle with trembling hands, and the feeble flame cast shadows that danced like playful ghosts. On one wooden plank, a dark knot stood out, not just a floor, but a face. A very fat, bald man's face, grinning ear to ear with hollow eyes that stared like they knew your dirtiest secrets. It wasn't welcoming. It was the kind of smile that says, "I've seen things, and you're next." The hunter tried to shrug it off, settling into the straw by the fireplace, but that face pulled at him like a bad itch. The candlelight flickered, and with each waver, the face seemed to move. The mouth stretched wider, the eyes sank deeper into shadow. The wind howled outside, a chorus to the unease prickling his neck. Finally fed up, and maybe a little unhinged, he grabbed the candle and stomped over. Staring it down, he growled, "What's so funny, fatso?" The face didn't answer, but its grin widened as if it found his bravado delicious. He backed off, muttering, and crawled back to the straw. Sleep came in fits, haunted by twisted faces and whispers he couldn't shake. He woke multiple times, and each time those wooden eyes were waiting, patient as death. At dawn, gray light crept through the cracks. The cabin was still, the straw was tousled, the shotgun coat and spent candle lay abandoned. And on the wall, where there'd been one face, now there were two. The new one was his spitting image. Same rough jaw, same vacant stare carved with eerie precision. Beside it, the fat, bald man grinned, wider than ever, as if toasting his new pal with a silent, "Cheers, idiot." In the ancient realm of Eldoria, a land where the mountains soared to kiss the heavens and the forests whispered secrets older than time itself, there stretched a kingdom of boundless wonder. Eldoria was a tapestry of enchantment. Its rivers sang lullabies to the emerald valleys below. Its winds carried the faint laughter of spirits long faded into legend, and its skies shimmered with hues no mortal tongue could name. Yet beneath this beauty lay a quiet sorrow, for even in a realm so steeped in magic, death wove its inevitable thread through every life. In a humble village nestled at the foot of the Silver Peaks lived a young warrior named Arik. His frame was lean yet strong, honed by years of wielding a blade passed down from ancestors whose names still echoed in fireside tales. His eyes, a deep hazel flecked with gold, held a spark of unyielding determination, though now they were shadowed with grief. For Arik's heart belonged to Ilara, the healer's daughter, a woman whose gentle spirit seemed to light the world around her. Ilara was a vision of grace, her hair a cascade of chestnut waves, her twilight blue eyes brimming with kindness, her voice a melody that could ease the deepest pain. But fate had dealt her a cruel blow. A mysterious illness, its origins lost to even the wisest sages, had crept into her bones, sapping her strength until she lay frail and fading, a fragile echo of her former self. Arik could not bear to watch her slip away. Day after day he sat by her bedside, her cold hand clasped in his, searching for any flicker of hope in her dimming gaze. In his desperation he turned to the village elders, a council of weathered souls who gathered beneath the sprawling branches of the great oak. Their robes rustled like dry leaves as they spoke in hushed reverence of a legend older than the stones beneath their feet, the tale of the eternal tree. Far beyond the reaches of mortal paths, began the eldest, his voice a gravelly whisper that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Within the heart of the whispering woods stands a tree of such majesty that its roots pierce the soul of Eldoria, and its branches cradle the stars. Its fruits, golden as the first light of dawn, shimmer with the promise of eternal life for any brave enough to claim them. But heed this, Arik. The way is fraught with peril, guarded by creatures of myth and trials that test not merely the body, but the spirit. Arik's heart surged with a fragile hope, though fear gnawed at its edges. "I will go," he declared, his voice steady despite the tremor in his soul. "For Ilara, I would face any trial, defy any shadow." The elders exchanged glances, their eyes heavy with the wisdom of ages. "Then go with our blessing," they said at last. "But know this, not all who seek the eternal tree find the prize they seek." With the dawn painting the sky in hues of rose and gold, Arik prepared for his quest. He donned armor forged by Eldoria's finest smiths, plates of steel etched with runes of protection, and took up his ancestral sword, its blade gleaming like captured moonlight. Kneeling beside Ilara, he pressed a tender kiss to her pallid brow, her skin cool against his lips. "I will return with the fruit to save you," he whispered, his voice thick with resolve. Her faint smile was his only answer, a fragile thread of light in the gathering dark. With her love as his compass, he stepped beyond the village's edge and into the wild unknown. The journey began through landscapes that tested both body and spirit. Arik traversed shadowed vales where the air hung heavy with the scent of moss and decay, the ground soft and treacherous beneath his boots. He climbed jagged hills, their peaks shrouded in mist, each step a battle against the wind that howled like a chorus of lost souls. Over roaring torrents he crossed, their waters icy and swift, threatening to drag him into their depths. Yet through every hardship, Ilara's face shimmered in his mind, her laughter, her touch, urging him onward when his strength faltered. After days that blurred into a timeless haze, Arik reached the border of the whispering woods. The trees here were ancient sentinels, their trunks gnarled and twisted, their branches swaying as if alive with murmured warnings. A stillness settled over the land, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant cry of some unseen creature. Arik's skin prickled as he felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, though none revealed themselves. Steeling his nerves, he stepped into the forest's embrace, his hand resting on his sword's hilt. The path grew wilder as he ventured deeper, the light fading until only slivers of sun pierced the canopy. Thickets of thorn clawed at his armor, and roots rose like snares beneath his feet. It was here that his first trial emerged, a towering stag, its antlers a sprawling crown of twisted thorns, its eyes glowing with the wisdom of forgotten eras. The beast stood taller than any man, its presence a force that seemed to command the very air. "Why dost thou seek the eternal tree?" It thundered, its voice a rumble that shook the earth and sent leaves spiraling down like autumn rain. Arik squared his shoulders, though his heart pounded like a war drum. "To save the one I love," he replied, his voice firm despite the awe that gripped him. "She is my world, and I will not let her fade." The guardian of the woods studied him, its gaze piercing through flesh to the soul beneath. After a silence that stretched like eternity, it lowered its head in a slow, deliberate bow. "Pass, mortal," it intoned, "but beware. The path ahead will test thy strength and thy spirit. Not all who seek shall find what they crave." With the stag's blessing, Arik pressed on, the woods growing darker and more oppressive. The air thickened with a mist that carried whispers, fragments of voices, laughter, and cries that seemed to drift from nowhere. His next challenge came without warning. A ravine spanned by a crumbling bridge of stone, its edges worn by centuries of wind and rain. Far below, a river roared, its waters black as night and flecked with foam. Arik hesitated, the wind tugging at his cloak, but the thought of Ilara steadied his trembling hands. Step by cautious step he crossed, the stone groaning beneath his weight until he reached the far side, breathless but unbroken. Deeper still he journeyed, until he came upon the Mirror Lake. Its surface was a perfect sheet of glass, reflecting not the sky but a vision that struck him like a dagger to the chest. Ilara, lifeless, her eyes closed in eternal slumber, his hands empty of hope. The sight stole his breath, tears blurring his vision as despair clawed at his heart. "No," he rasped, sinking to his knees. "This cannot be." Yet the lake held its cruel mirror, unyielding. Closing his eyes, Arik summoned her name like a prayer, letting the memory of her love guide him. Blindly, he stepped forward, his boots finding unseen stones beneath the water's surface, faith carrying him across the abyss of his fears. Days melted into nights, each step heavier than the last, until a golden light began to pierce the shadowed canopy. The air grew warm, infused with the scent of blooming flowers, and Arik's pulse quickened. At last he reached the heart of the woods, and there stood the eternal tree, a vision beyond mortal dreams. Its trunk rose vast as a fortress tower, its bark shimmering with veins of silver and gold. Leaves of emerald gleamed in the radiant glow, and from its boughs hung fruits of molten gold, each pulsing with an inner flame as if alive with the essence of eternity. Arik's breath caught at its splendor, his hand trembling as he reached for a fruit. But before his fingers brushed its skin, a voice filled the glade, ancient, soft as the wind through time, yet resonant with the weight of countless ages. It was the tree itself speaking. "Why dost thou seek my fruit, child of man?" it asked, its words weaving through the air like a melody of sorrow and wisdom. Arik sank to his knees, humbled before its majesty. "To save my beloved from death's grasp," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "She is fading, and I cannot bear to lose her. She is my light, my everything." The tree's sigh was a mournful breeze rustling its leaves in a symphony of melancholy. Life is a gift, precious and fleeting, yet so too is its end. My fruit grants not endless days, but the peace to embrace them. To live forever is to forsake the fleeting beauty of each moment, to deny the cycle that gives meaning to all things. Tears streamed down Arik's face, his chest tight with anguish. "But I love her," he choked out. "How can I let her go when she is my world?" "Love endures beyond the veil," the tree murmured, its voice gentle yet firm. "It is not bound by flesh nor time. Take a fruit, but know this: it heals not the body, but the soul, hers to find peace in her passing, and thine to find strength in release. What you seek is not immortality, but the courage to cherish what was." The truth settled into Arik's heart like roots finding fertile soil, painful yet undeniable. With trembling hands he plucked a single golden fruit, its warmth spreading through his palms like a final embrace. He bowed his head in gratitude, the tree's wisdom a bittersweet balm to his grief. The journey home passed in a haze of sorrow and dawning acceptance, the fruit cradled close to his chest. When he returned to the village, the elders awaited him, their eyes reflecting the knowledge he now carried. Arik went straight to Ilara's side, where she lay as he had left her, fragile as a wilting flower. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale as moonlight. With infinite tenderness, he placed the fruit in her hands, guiding it to her lips. She took a single bite, and a gentle smile curved her mouth, a smile of peace, of release. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a faint echo of the melody he'd always loved. Her eyes fluttered shut, and Arik held her close, feeling her slip away like the last light of dusk. Yet within him bloomed the tree's gift, a quiet acceptance, a love unbound by the chains of time. When her final breath faded, Arik did not shatter, for he knew their bond would endure, eternal as the tree itself. And so, in the realm of Eldoria, the legend of the eternal tree lived on, not as a tale of endless life, but as a testament to the beauty of its brevity, and the truth that love, once kindled, never truly fades. I have a story to tell. A story that dwells in the dark corners of memory, where light wavers and shadows whisper truths that no one wants to hear. Tonight I take you to a nameless land, a rural place lost in the 80s, where the wind sings among the trees, and loneliness can be as dangerous as a sharp knife. Listen well, for this is the story of a boy who found a friend, or something far worse. In a small village surrounded by an ancient forest, the wooden house of Henry's family stood like a fragile refuge against the wild nature. The trees, tall and gnarled, seemed to watch over the house, their branches creaking as if sharing forgotten secrets. Henry was 7 years old, but his body did not keep pace with his spirit. His monoplegia had left him weak, confined to a life of stillness, with his right leg rigid and an arm that barely obeyed. He was small, thin, with glasses that magnified his curious blue eyes, and a heart so good it almost hurt to see. His father, a decent man but trapped in a transient job, dragged the family from one place to another, never allowing them to put down roots. Each move was another tear in Henry, who couldn't make friends or play like other children. With no modern distractions, he immersed himself in books, devouring pages as if words could fill the void that life had denied him. One afternoon, after yet another move that promised to be the last, as his father always said with a voice laden with guilt, Henry ventured into the forest. His overprotective mother had forbidden him, but the winter had covered the world with a frozen stillness that called to him. The sun was already sinking, tinting the sky a dull grey when he saw it. Among the trees, a short, rotund figure emerged from the dimness. Its body was grotesque, as if it had been molded from wet, clumsy clay. But what froze Henry's blood was its mouth, an impossible gash stretching from ear to ear, revealing sharp teeth in a smile that never reached its eyes. "Hello, little one. I'm Mr. Bigmouth," it said in a syrupy, almost hypnotic voice. Henry, though trembling, did not run. There was something in that being, a strange calm, that ensnared him like a spider's web. They sat beneath a tree, and the goblin spoke. He told of a magical kingdom, a place of wonders where there was no pain or loneliness, far better than the horrible human world. Then, with a sly glint in his eyes, he added, "Don't tell your parents about me. They won't believe you. I only appear to children and the elderly. If you speak, they'll think you're crazy." Henry, wise for his age, nodded. His parents, with their tired faces and adult worries, would never understand. That night, Mr. Bigmouth appeared again, sliding silently from under the bed. They talked until dawn, the goblin weaving fantastic tales while Henry confessed his wounds, the moves, his illness, his loneliness. For the first time, the boy felt that someone truly listened to him. The goblin returned each night during the holidays, always with that enormous smile, always attentive. But there was an edge to his presence, a nuance that Henry, in his innocence, couldn't quite name. One night, everything changed. Mr. Bigmouth sat in a chair by the bed, his silhouette outlined against the moonlight. "Do you want to see something interesting?" he asked, his voice deeper, hungrier. Henry, curious, nodded. The goblin led him to the window, abruptly opening it, letting in a gust of icy air, and without warning he leaped out from the second floor. He fell like a stone, hitting the ground with a dull crash, and then, as if made of rubber, bounced back to the window with impossible agility. Henry let out a nervous little laugh, astonished. "Now you," said the goblin, extending a hand with twisted fingers. Henry recoiled, his instinct screaming. "I can't. I'm human. I'd hurt myself." Mr. Bigmouth's smile twisted into a grimace of disgust. "You certainly can. You just have to believe." But Henry, with the maturity that life had forced upon him, refused. The goblin looked at him with eyes as dark as wells, and with a low growl said, "Then I'm leaving." And he vanished, leaving behind an oppressive silence. 3 days later he returned. Henry awoke with a start to find him at the foot of the bed, holding 6 kitchen knives, 3 in each hand, whose blades gleamed in the dim light. With inhuman dexterity, the goblin began juggling, the knives spinning in a deadly whirlwind. Then he paused the act and offered them to the boy. "Try it. I'll teach you." Henry, heart pounding, shook his head. "I can't. Please, no." The goblin frowned, his patience waning. "I want what's best for you. he whispered, drawing closer. "I want to take you to my world." Terrified, Henry couldn't refuse. He lay down rigidly as the goblin nestled by his side, whispering dark promises into his ear until the dawn chased him away. The final encounter was in the forest. Mr. Bigmouth waited for him by a narrow path, one that Henry had never crossed before. "Give me your hand. Let's go together to my kingdom," he said, his voice now a command disguised as a plea. Henry hesitated, but the goblin had already grabbed him, his fingers as cold as marble. Then from the house his father's voice cut through the air. "Henry, come back now!" The goblin dissolved into a cloud of smoke, and Henry ran to his father, clinging to him like a lifeline. From that day on, he never left his father's side, terrified that loneliness might draw him back into those clutches. The family moved shortly after. As the car drove away, Henry looked out the window and saw Mr. Bigmouth in his old room, waving goodbye from the mirror with a feigned, sinister sadness. He didn't respond. Years later, he discovered the truth. The forest path led to a forgotten cemetery where every tombstone marked the grave of a child. And so this story ends. On the cold nights of that nameless place, some swear they hear laughter among the trees. But heed this warning. Not everything that offers companionship is a friend. There are beings lurking in loneliness, waiting for you to let your guard down. And when you do, well, that's another tale for another night.